Hi, this is Phil, and you have tuned in to my second episode of my new series on fallacies in regards to risk. So a fallacy is faulty reasoning, misleading, or unsound argument. So that means a way of thinking or arguing, basically, that does not necessarily lead to the truth. Um, a great example to give to you would be um, the doctor told me this is true, so it has to be true. But as we've seen through the recent COVID crisis, doctors can disagree. Some of them are more experts than others. Sometimes they don't have all the information, right? So that's an argument from authority fallacy. It's not the fallacy we're talking about today. Today we're talking about the false dilemma fallacy. In this series, I will be going over three different fallacies, possibly more if you all want to see more. And I will be giving scenarios to the that fall in with the three fallacies. And I'll also be kind of giving, maybe a real world example at the end of the fallacy just to kind of drive the point home and describe why you shouldn't do that and maybe the alternatives to the fallacy. So a false dilemma fallacy is where you say either you can do this or you can do this, right? And I'm going to show it here with all four of the players in this play with our pass and play game that I've set up, right? So a lot of times if you're red, you think I can expand, right? Should I expand into Europe or should I expand into South America, right? And so that's a false dilemma because there's many other options for red. Red could turtle and get strong and hope that other people fight, right? Red could take a few more extra territories in hopes that they can get, this bonus up to 15, 18 to get those extra troops. Red could come down here and break the African player and ask the other people, hey, let's team up on Africa or please attack orange, right? So red has multiple options, but a lot of times when I'm seeing new players, they get South America or North America is a great example, and then their really only thought is expanding, so they'll go into Europe, or more likely they'll go and try to go into South America and hold all the Americas with these 3 points. It's not a bad strategy. It's not necessarily the wrong thing to do, but if your mind is only saying, should I do this or that, you're going to miss out on the other possibilities and other ways of winning the game. Okay. One thing I like to do when I'm the North American player is I like to try to get as strong as I can, protect myself against the other players, but build right here. And I do this over turn, over turn, over turn. And eventually you get strong enough over the Australian player that I come down, take out the Australian turtle, and now I'm far away from these two. We're in a three-player situation. As long as the game's balanced, then as long as I'm playing with smart players, I should be able to turtle. And a lot of times these two will get in a battle because they're right next to each other, sharing a border, and then they can break the balance of the game doing that. So that's another option that's sometimes, you think, hey, you have this really valuable continent, you know, let's expand. But, there's many other options, and that's just one of them that I've used that has been pretty successful, especially playing global domination games against random lobbies. Okay, now what we see here as the green player, this green player is totally locked in, right? They have to bust a 9 or an 8. And a lot of times what I see with new players is I gotta get my card, I gotta be involved. So what's my option? Am I busting the 8 or the 9? And they think, who have I been better friends with? Who's in the lead? And that's how they make the decision. But what I would say is, um, and then they try to keep the continent as well. To bust the 9, bring it back, bust the 8, bring it back, get the card, or leave the 16 over and then start trying to pick up these ones. I would say there's a couple of different options here, and one that should not be overlooked is the zero card, where you just start building an internal army or just building on your borders without getting a card. This is something that's particularly useful in fixed cards. I would not necessarily suggest it in progressive cards. It's rare that you want a zero card in progressive cards. But in fixed card, each card's only worth, about 2.8 or something like that troops. So if you're busting through a 9 or an 8 to try and better your position, um, and then, in this case, if you bust through the 9, you're running into a couple other armies, and this army is going to be weak. So you may never recoup the troops that you're losing by making that attack, and you may want to just sit and turtle, turtle, turtle. There's also the other option of, coming up into North America, giving up on South America, and moving all your troops into one big army. That's another option as well. And so, yes, you're still busting the 8, or yes, you're still busting the 9 to come up into Europe, but um, it's not just, hey, I need to get a card and keep my continent. There's other options as well. No card, or make a drastic move and move out of where you're at. Okay. So the African player, you know, they may think, who should I go to war with, right? I'm getting kind of strong, and we can go to war with this Australian player, or um, or I can go to war with the North American player or the South American player. Who should I go to war with? We should definitely work to take somebody out. Now, if you're playing with all grandmasters, that's a great idea because they're all looking to take. So that's the false dilemma. Who should we start attacking? Who should we start taking out? And that's an inevitable end to the game is you have to start attacking people. But another option would be to, expand territories like this person did. This orange expanded territories. So they fell out of that false dilemma and they started saying, hey, I want to get my territory bonus up. Or to just sit and turtle and get big and hope that everybody else starts attacking each other. That's always an option. Um, but that idea that like we definitely have to take somebody out of the game is not necessarily the dilemma that you're in. The dilemma is out of all my options, what's my best option, right? All right. So then a lot of times the Australian turtle player, they're thinking again, who should I attack? Should I attack into Africa to make Orange weak? Should I attack into North America to make them weak? Or should I just turtle? And a lot of times you see them just turtling, turtling, turtling no matter what. Well, it's quite possible that maybe they should attack into one of these, like maybe especially North America, because that person is going to become the strongest. Um, or maybe they want to start attacking Orange because everyone has access to Orange, and if they work together, they can take them out. But another option, and you've probably seen people do this a lot, is to start expanding, to start putting threes and fives and get more territories to get another territory bonus, or to create a second army, start creating a second army in case you need it, so that if somebody wants to steal Australia from you, you have this auxiliary army that can go and keep you alive and do other things or take Australia back. So there's many options for the blue player as well. And I'm just trying to encourage you with this to expand your horizons in mind and not see just one or two options, especially new players who, want to expand no matter what, think their only option is once they get a continent and get big to start attacking people into their continents. A lot of times by having the one or two track mind and thinking you have this dilemma, you pigeonhole yourself and you don't allow yourself to look at all the possibilities of winning the game. So that's the false dilemma fallacy. So a real world example would be, imagine you're at a TV store, the TV, the salesman works on a commission, right? And you're looking at multiple different TVs or computers, cars, whatever you want it to be, and they'll say, and you've looked at an expensive one with all the bells and whistles, and then you've looked at a more basic one, that's cheaper, and when you're thinking about it, and they're maybe trying to close, always be closing, they're saying, hey, so which one's it gonna be? Is it gonna be the expensive one with all the bells and whistles, and that's the one they want you to get? or is it going to be the cheap one? Well, that's not necessarily your only options. You could go down the street and get a different TV. You could watch TV on the computer you already own. You could go get a used TV. You could decide to take up reading and not watch TV anymore. There's 1,000 options out there, but a lot of times people narrow it down to one, two, three, four, five options instead of, and they create this false dilemma in their mind: should I do A or B? Instead of um, looking at the whole picture, which could be do nothing, right? And a lot of times in risk, your option is do nothing. But that could also be a false dilemma between do I do nothing or attack? There could be a middle ground like take a lot of territories to get a bonus, right? So that's the false dilemma fallacy. Uh, Please subscribe and hit notifications if you want to know when more videos are coming out. My name is Risky Phil. It's Phil, and it's one word on Twitch, two words on YouTube. Thanks for watching.